Hi, welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. Today, we are very lucky. We have Elizabeth Banfalvi back with us, and she's our dear friend. She's
Sure.
retired. She's written 6 books on meditation from the classes and workshops she's taught. She is the head of the Mississauga Writers Group and enjoys holding meetings and doing yearly anthologies. So we're very excited that we got you back on our podcast, and we're going to talk about the things that nature can give us today. So, Elizabeth,
Wonderful.
I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. One thing that I think was my saving grace in a lot of things, I was born and raised on a farm. So for the first 10 and a half years of my life, I lived on a farm, and we had cows, we had horses, and they were crops and all this kind of stuff. So I was so used to animals being around me. So even, later in life, having animals for myself and all that, but just even going out and enjoying the air, and, you know, we forget what nature has and
We
what it
do.
can give us. And even with Barb, she had an incident that just happened to her, but she's Native Indian. And the way the Native Indians respected the earth, the way they had the seasons, that they took care of the seasons, they took care of their animals, and they did so many things, and even the moon and the stars and everything. I taught my older grandson to wish upon a star. He played hockey, and we'd go out at the end of the game, we'd go out, and it would be the sky would be full of stars. And I said, make a wish, make a wish. He says, which one? Which one? And I said, just pick one and make a wish. And he would always do that. And, the smile on his face after he did that. And I remember when he was 18, 19 years old, he walked out of his home, and he was walking me to my car, and the sky was full of stars. And I said to this 18, 19-year-old boy, I said, hey, the stars are out, make a wish. And he looked at me and he says, I already did. and it's such a simple thing, but it opens us up for possibilities. Like, how many ways can we wish? We can wish for a better life, but we can wish on so many different things, and that's the whole thing about nature. It teaches us to be open, to walk in the breeze and let it just run across our face and freshen us up. The trees that are bending in the breeze, I don't know, it's just, there's so many things, and even walking beside the water.
Oh,
That's
yes.
beautiful too.
Yeah. Water is
There's
magnificent.
Yeah. And there's a beautiful saying is that you can never step in the same stream twice, because you step in it and then you go to step in it again, and that water is already gone.
That's right.
You've got fresh water. So you're always stepping into something that is new and refreshing.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it too. So, but I just wanted to talk about that because there is something about nature that always gives us something. And I realize that unfortunately right now in your area, you're getting a lot of forest fires. So it's teaching, to me, it's teaching us to be more reflective on all these, to me, I see all these trees dying. And, we've got to start doing something to keep them alive and to rebuild and all this kind of stuff. So it's just regretful that that's happening right now.
It is. You know what I do, like the positive thing that to take away from it though is that, right, there will be this newness, and a lot of times when these trees grow back, these edible mushrooms grow on the trees that are very medicinal and stuff. And so I think with you saying like the newness coming in the stream, it's kind of like nature, even though this is like a terrible, horrific thing to happen to people and to our nature, it's actually going to rebirth into something new, which I think is incredible.
It is.
Yeah.
I was actually going to tell about the mushrooms too. And I mean, you know, like many people will go up in the mountains and the side of the mountains and pick them, and they only come after a fire. So, and I guess they're worth a lot of money and they're medicinal and everything else. So how wonderful is that?
Yeah, it is. It's fun. It's nature always rebirths itself.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Even when a flower dies, another one takes its place.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, that's a beautiful part of nature. I have some of the questions I sent to Kimmy. Oh, the other little story I wanted to talk to you about is that I was babysitting my younger grandson, and he was in grade 1. And so I told him we'd go to McDonald's. And so, of course, it was just a walk away. And of course, he walked, I don't know how many feet in front of him, you know, up in front of me. Like I was the one that, and I was going to be the one that paid for him to be at McDonald's. So he needed me. And we're walking along and it was fall. And I looked to the lawn beside me, and it was a big apartment building, but the lawn was just, oh, there was so many squirrels scattered all over the lawn into the bush that's in front of the building and everything. And I finally said to my grandson, "Can you count the squirrels?" And he went, and he turned to look at me. "What are you talking about? What squirrels?" And I pointed at all the squirrels that were running around. And he looked. He didn't even see them until I said something. And so we started counting them. You know, like, you know, unfortunately, I counted one of the ones he counted. So he told me off. Oh, no, that's my squirrel. But he forgot he was going to McDonald's. I had to remind him at the end of
That's
it.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he got so caught up in that. Another time we were on my balcony here, and I had a lot of different colored flowers, and he was so bored. And I said to him, I said, "Can you count my flowers?" And he looked at me, and I got him a piece of paper and everything. And he, for over 2 hours, he counted all the pink ones, all the blue ones, all the yellow ones. And it was like he forgot time.
So what
You
you're
know,
saying is nature was put him in such a bliss sort of thing just to be there for a moment. That changed his mind about everything.
Yeah, it is. And that's, I just did a workshop for elementary school, grade 3 to 8. And one of the girls got up and said, "You know, I want to write, but sometimes I can't write. I forget what I'm writing and all that." And I said, "Then go for a walk, especially in nature."
Yeah.
I said, "Take the time to go out, you know, walk in nature, look at the trees, look at everything that's around you, and then come back."
Right.
And she just looked at me and she got her answer. You know, because don't sit there worrying about getting something written. Get up and, you know, free your mind, sort of thing. And that's what she did. You know, and just the smile that was on her face after I said that, I went, "Okay, I had the right answer, thank God."
Well, there's so much inspiration from nature, right? Like
oh
I
my
know
God,
we
yes.
went camping, and so with Sasha, our granddaughter, she was pestering, and so she's like, "How can you just sit out here and not say anything?" I'm like, "Just be quiet for a minute and listen. Listen to the wind going through the trees. Listen to the chipmunks or squirrels, whatever, running in the trees. Like, just listen." And then she's like, "Oh, this is really peaceful," right? So I think nature, and I know for myself, even as a kid, so funny you said about writing, because even as a kid, I used to journal, and I would take my journal down by the ravine where we lived and sit
Oh,
out
yeah.
on the rock so that I could write and get inspiration from it, right? So
Yeah, and you probably didn't even realize what you were doing, maybe.
not back then.
No, so nature gives us so much, we just don't realize what, you know, and I remember I used to live outside of Sudbury in a little village called Zilda. And they wanted to get some foliage on the rocks, because the rocks, it was all around, they had broken through the rocks, and so it was bare. The rocks were all bare. So what they got university students to scatter wheat. And what would happen is that the birds would come and eat the wheat, but they'd poop. And that's where the seeds would go. The seeds would fall from the wind. And then the next time I went up, because I wasn't living there anymore, there was all foliage, all on the rocks. And it was just because of birds coming and eating the weed and pooping on it, because what they had eaten before would have seeds and all that. So it was like a natural fertilizer at the same time. But those are the kinds of things that nature replenishes itself.
It's beautiful how it, when we look at our grass,
Yeah.
how it grows. And I remember when we went to Colorado, we were up into the mountains and that, and the trees, they lived out of the rocks. That looked like there was no earth there. It looked like it was coming out of the actual rock. It wasn't, because they had found some dirt somewhere to root itself. But I don't know, Kimmy, you probably remember that. You were probably about 18 at the time we did that. But like the foliage, everything grew out of these rocks, and it was like, how does it do that? Because it doesn't look like there's any dirt. Like down below it, there was dirt. But it's amazing how nature can just grow in impossible situations.
Yeah, and it's interesting how it gives us so much. We get messages, like spirit messages from the animals, and then we get the grounding from the earth if we're going out and standing on the earth and getting that energy and that from the nature, and we're getting peace and serenity. And I think it's really something for us all to be in awe about, how it does bring all this newness. And I mean, I think that's a nice message for everybody, is even through chaos and destruction and things like that, there's always newness and always hope in it.
Yeah. And you never go out and look at the flowers, and maybe the flowers are worried, well, what if I grow now, where I'd be hurt, or it might be too cold. No, they just grow.
Never thought of it that way.
Yeah, no gossip,
Well,
but
and that's true. I have a flower in my front yard, hanging flower, and it was pretty much dead. So I'd picked all the flowers off, and it was just the green leaves. And I thought, whatever, I'm just going to leave it up for the rest of the summer anyways. And then we came home the other weekend from camping, and I said to my husband, I'm like, oh my God, there's flowers on that plant. So it's crazy how, like you said, right? Trees can grow out of this seemingly cement, and flowers can just rebloom all of a sudden, 2 months after they're not even supposed to be.
That's the truth. That's the truth. I want to put a little bit of a zip on the nature thing. I was telling both of you the other day about Trisha getting back to me about what had happened at her home.
Who was Trisha again?
Trisha is my niece.
Okay.
Well, and Kimmy's cousin. So anyways, what happened was, she had birds, thousands of them sitting in her front yard, hundreds of them anyway, on her grass in her front yard, which had never happened before. And she was wondering what it meant. And then the same day, a bird hit the window. She thought it had died at that time, but I guess next day it got growth or got better and flew away. In the meantime, she said she was out in the backyard, and she was grooming her flowers not in the backyard. And all of a sudden these crows came out and they started squawking and carrying on and making all kinds of noise. And she says, I decided to quit doing what I was doing, that maybe that's what they were telling me, like, stop what you're doing. And so she says, she says, with all the different things that had happened, she said she got a not such a great feeling about it, with everything that happened. But we can talk about nature and what it does and how it gives us the messages, the birds calming and cawing at her, giving her that message, and she paid attention, right? And how nature in every way worked with her that day, to give her an ideas of what was coming up. So I know I gave her an idea of what I thought it was, but how would you reflect on that, Elizabeth, with the animals and everything?
I remember doing a little game, and it was about, I always start with the people with meditation, always to put their feet on the ground, flat on the ground. Feel the earth beneath your feet. And it was the one game was that they had to walk along. They were going into the forest. And in the forest, they had to keep their eyes closed the whole time, but they were dreaming that they were doing this. And in the forest, an animal comes up to them, but it's not dangerous. It's just there to be with them.
Right.
And I said, what are they trying to tell you? And you go along, and the animal just stays with you and walks along, and you go by the river and, listen to the river. And I forget how many different things there were about that. And, that these people weren't, they were beginning meditators. They never did this before. But each of them got an animal. Each of them got something from the river. And each of them got something from everything we were in nature. And like I said, they weren't big, they were new meditators. That was one of the first classes I did. But it got them to think differently. And every animal had something good to say to them.
Nice.
And they were all different animals. Okay. So it was a matter of that, we have them there. Is, like a lot of us have dogs or cats. And the dog will come up to us when they know that we're not feeling good.
Yep.
How do they know? Come on. But cats too, will come up to us and all this kind of stuff. And, it's like unbelievable. I go to my grandson's house, and they've got a little boy now. He's 3 years old, and they've got a dog that is so active. And I forget what absolutely beautiful dog, really pleasant and everything. And he is just running around, but he never once knocks over their son.
Nice. He knows.
And yet, yeah, exactly. And he never hurts him, never knocks him over. And yet he's running around so active in everything. And they just had a new baby girl, and they had her on the couch, and the dog went up and just sniffed her, and just went away, and then came back another few times and just sniffed her, just to get used to her, because he knew somebody was there. And, that's all he did. He just had to keep sniffing her. But he knew she was there, and he knew Nolan was there too. And he never once knocked him over.
Because they're smart. They know. It's like all animals, but animals give us messages too, right?
Yeah.
Big time. And, it was lucky because when she said the girl flew into her window, it didn't die. It laid there for a day trying to get better, but it didn't die. And, she said it was interesting because then there was other birds on the lawn. They were like fighting with each other. And she said, and they were like, why are you fighting in my yard? Like that sort of thing. But I mean, it's interesting because she paid so close attention to it as well. And
Yeah.
when people pay a close attention to nature, they do get the messages they need to get about what's happening right around them right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what I was gonna say is I think that's a big thing to take away from that too, right? Is the more in tune we get with listening to nature and the things that happen, the more we have that intuition about what they're trying to say, where she stopped doing what she was doing because of that. And she, was more conscious about looking around, why are these birds coming? And it's funny because I had a similar thing that these birds landed on my thing, and I was in here doing some work on podcasts and things like that, the behind the scenes stuff. And they flew in, and I thought, wow, these are new birds that I had never seen on my lawn before. And I thought, that's really neat. That means there's a lot of newness coming into my life and a lot of changes and things like that. That's how I took it. So I think when we're paying attention, like you said, to the nature, and when you're doing meditations and things like that, where you're going into nature and finding that connection, I think is important too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, and what it does is, you just said it too, it takes your attention off of what sometimes we need to be disrupted.
We do.
Interrupted, I should say, not disrupted. But it's like my grandson hurrying off to McDonald's. And as soon as I got him to look at the squirrels, he had the most fun. He just was into it and everything. And he forgot all about McDonald's,
Yeah.
and that was the beautiful part about it. And counting the flowers, he just kept counting them and putting them down on the piece of paper. And it was like, I couldn't help but smile because
True.
it was such a beautiful scene of him just counting the flowers. So there are beautiful things in nature that make us catch our breath. And another thing I love too is what I used to do up north. When I was younger, I used to walk in a circle around in this new fallen snow, and try and come back to the first steps. And you can never redo the same steps because you've already changed.
Right.
And that's a beautiful thing to think of. There's a poem by Robert Frost that I always love, and it's called Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. And the line in it is, watching the woods fill up with snow.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. And, we have to start enjoying nature more and just taking the time. It doesn't have to be like hours and hours and hours. But just like you said that there was, you were working and the birds just came to say hello.
Yeah.
Basically that's what they did, like, hey, hello, I'm out here. And the more we can do that, the better we'll be.
That's
the
true.
more peaceful we'll be. Yeah. And every animal, like we are famous author, that used to do all the books on animals too, Ted Andrews. He had all the animals, all the beautiful things that each of the animals were about. And, we looked at that, like I remember asking him what a white owl was when we went to his thing. And he said, he was explaining it to me, and it was because I had just had an operation and everything was telling me I was going to be okay.
Nice.
And so, and it ended up I was, but I was still worried at that time, because everything was very new. And I remember going to your place, Barb, and getting up in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden I walked by the window and I could see the mountains. And I remember saying to you, oh my God, it's beautiful.
Well,
And it just made me stop and appreciate. So, and a lot of that happened at that time, because it was making me appreciate,
because sometimes
and
we forget to appreciate what's right in front of us, in particular nature, because nature's there. We don't even, we take it so much for granted that it's there. and we shouldn't, because that gives us more peace than anything I know. And you talking about the mountains, like, I love the mountains. I find they're so majestic that I don't know, I can lose my breath in them, easily.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When I think when we stop and we really do kind of start looking at nature too, it's like we do see that beauty and we do see the awe in it, and the different, like, there's so many incredible things out there. We just have to appreciate them. And I think slowing ourselves down to just be in nature and revel in it gives us a sense of peace that we need, because our lives are so hectic and we are rushing through our lives.
We forget. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what it's there for, even to, we're now finishing off summer, but now we're getting into fall, and then we'll get into winter, and then we'll get into spring again, so to appreciate each of the seasons. That's one thing. We've got 4 seasons here, which not every country has.
That's right.
But to appreciate each season, to appreciate the snowfall, like I always used to try and catch a snowflake.
Yeah. All kids, I think, at some point, though.
Yeah.
Trying to do that. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
And the bigger they are, I remember doing that when we lived in the mountains, because when it was snow where we were, we would put our hand out, and the snowflakes were so big. They were just like huge snowflakes. I'd never seen anything like it when I lived in the East. And I hadn't even seen them like that living here in Alberta. But when I lived in BC, honest to God, the snowflake looked like it was going to fit my whole hand.
Yeah.
It was beautiful, beautiful. Yeah.
One of the jokes I tell in my members' meetings and all that, I said, what can't you do in Sudbury that you can do here in the snow? You can't make a snowball. It won't stick together. It's like powder. Yeah. There's no snowmen up there at all. Because down southern Ontario, oh yeah, you can make a snowman, no problem.
Oh, no problem.
There you can. Yeah. But those was always the joke I asked, and they were like, oh my God, really? And then we'd be talking about snow, which was great, but no, it's and even in when you're doing readings and all that, you do clearing, which what is the branch you use now again in clearing, when you're doing clearing?
Sweetgrass.
Yeah.
Sweetgrass is part of it. Sage, just but I mean, some of it has cedar in it, lavender in it.
Yeah.
And sage itself. Palo Santo is made out of like a wood.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And each of them has a meaning of their own, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like every time we do something, we should always draw nature to us, and just simply sit there and relax. And like I said, every time I say, I had a new class with meditation, I'd ask them how they were. They'd come in and I'd ask them, oh, so how are you? Oh, everybody's fine. And I'm going, so why are they at a meditation class if they're fine? But the first meditation I did, I mostly got them to sit with their feet on the ground, and then we would walk out of the class with their eyes, no, just pretend. And I would get them to feel the sand shifting underneath their feet, because we were on a beach. And then I would make them walk on the waves and feel the waves hitting their feet and off and all that. And like I said, it was their first class, and everybody got it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's very nice. There's a very sensory thing about that, though, right? Like, nature's so peaceful. And I think because we're rushing, and it's nice that you do that, because that's such a sensory thing to bring people back in and be more grounded and be with the flow with water and things like that, right? And I like when you guys were talking about the woods and the smudge and stuff like that, I think that's one of the reasons I like essential oils is because it all comes from nature.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right. Yeah.
So we're pulling these wonderful things from nature that it gives us and using them in our everyday life to help us.
yeah, definitely. And as soon as you smell that, if it does one of the senses, you see it or you hear it or you smell it, there's such a difference.
Mhm.
You can't just ignore it. You've got to, like it just hits you and it gives you something. And that's what it's about. Like every essential oil gives you some different feeling.
Yep.
It interacts with us, and
Yeah.
that's what it's about. But yeah, it's like, I can't say enough about nature and what it can do. Yeah. So what are the other things that we use nature for in readings and all that kind of stuff? What else I always use bamboo shoots because so many bamboo shoots meant this, that, and the other thing, and I can't remember what it was anymore, but bamboo shoots were good too. Yeah, but when I had a meditation table, I would always try and have some sort of plant on it because that's what it just it would be right in eyesight range, so I'd always see it, and it would remind me to, like, okay, we're going to relax, we're going to meditate and all this kind of stuff. I still have flowers all over the place. I remember one guy I met one time, he came to see me and he looked around my room. My curtains have flowers on it, my pictures on the wall have flowers on it. My plants, of course, that not all of them water or flower all the time, but he walked in here and he says, "Oh my God, I can't believe how many plants and flowers you're surrounded by." And when he said I was surrounded by it, that gave me such a beautiful feeling. Because I never even think about it. I just put the pictures up, and and the three pictures of flowers my son gave me. And it's funny how he would know to buy me those flowers, but he did. So it's amazing how we surround ourselves, when we do things. Even when I just said to you something about that chakra curtain in the back. If it didn't mean anything to you, you really love it. If it didn't mean anything to you, you wouldn't have it up there.
That's
That's
right.
right.
And I mean, you gave it to me too, which was really
I
nice.
know.
I was like,
Yeah.
she's gonna be so excited when she sees that.
Yeah.
But I love it, right? Because you're bringing in those colors, and I mean, I guess that relates to nature too, because when you really start getting out there and paying attention, how many
Yep.
colors is there out there? How many smells is there out there? How many beautiful
Yep.
things to take, right? And I mean, I think that's why I've developed such a love to go camping, because when I'm out there, I can just sit and listen and just enjoy that peace and quiet.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's nothing like sitting in nature. I prefer to be in nature than in the hustle bustle of the city. Like I really do. I could be a
Yeah.
recluse real easy. I
Yeah.
could.
And it's like I said, I was born and raised on a farm, so we had animals there. We had cows, we had pigs, we had dogs and cats and everything. Every animal had their job to do. The cows, of course, gave milk. The pigs, they grew it for the meat, and the dogs had to take care of everybody, and the cats killed the mice in the barn, sort of thing. So,
And the
but
cycle goes on.
yeah, exactly. And so I saw that right from the first. So I remember we had a Hungarian pulley, and my sister used to, wander off, and she actually fell in a groundhog hole,
Oh,
and
shoot.
only her hand was above. And our pulley, our dog, ran to my parents and was jumping up and down, jumping up and down. And so what happened was that they said, well, what's wrong with the dog? And the dog kept going away and coming back, going away. And they followed her, the dog, until he stood above my sister and they saved her.
Nice.
Because they didn't realize that she had run away, she had run off.
Right.
Mhm.
But he knew it. The dog knew it.
Yeah.
And she said too, that she had been saved so many times by the dog. So it's dogs have so much value. And now they're finding out the police use dogs to help them. Horses are being used by children with disabilities. Monkeys too now are being used for different things to help disabled kids. So there's an awful lot of things that now they're finding out about animals can do so many different things, and because now they have a dog. If somebody's having mental problems, they give them a dog. And for of course, the blind school, the dog helps them cross the road and everything and just protects,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there's an awful lot of things.
And now
A
you can
lot of
have yoga
things.
with just about every kind of animal. They got goat yoga and puppy yoga and horse yoga.
All right.
And yeah,
Do they?
yeah.
No
Yeah.
kidding, I
So
didn't
there's
know
all
that.
these different things that you can go because, well, one, because there's that calmingness of these animals and
Yeah.
connecting with nature with it, right? So
Yep.
they brought these in. I don't know that I'd want to necessarily do that, but I think it's amazing because they do have these things, and I think it helps calm some people. And
Yeah.
like you said, like when they work with the kids and things like that. So it's
Yeah.
amazing, really.
It
Because-
is amazing how it helps them.
because kids take to animals quite quickly. They're first buddies, with other than with other brothers and sisters, sort of thing.
Mhm.
But kids really take to animals, and there's
They
no
do.
reason why. Like what's the reason why? But they do take to animals.
Yeah, most do. Yeah, that's true. I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah, it's cool.
So
Yeah.
what do you think, Elizabeth, would you be your top 3 things that you would say to the listeners to take away from being in nature and connecting with nature and those things? What do you think would be the top 3 things that you think are important?
Like I said, when I got them to put their feet on the ground, and they were inside a room, but they could feel the earth beneath their feet. And that was one of the most calming things, to feel their support. Okay. And another thing too is to smile.
That's so true. Smiling
Yeah.
is so easy. And yet I find that, because I smile a lot at people, but it's interesting to watch them, because sometimes they look at you as if they say, why are you smiling at me? And where
Yeah.
some of them, brighten up and go, oh, and smile back. And some even give you a nod or say hello. So a smile definitely brings home all those wonderful feelings when you do it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
And the hardest part was in COVID, when they had a mask on and I was smiling at them and I couldn't, and I'm going like, why don't I see their smile? Because they had a mask on, So
You got to tell a person smiling from their eyes, actually.
Yeah.
yeah, you did, but it took me a while to, like, hey, come on. But what is another one? I love just being out in nature, and like I said about the breeze, like I put my face up to it and it's just like it wipes away my worries. It gives me a time of rest. Like I might come back and I start worrying again, but it gives me that time. Yeah, well, I'm not going to give that up. But it gives me that time, and I go over to my daughters, and she's got a dog, and he comes over, and right away it's like, okay, come on, give me a massage. And because he's used to me giving him a massage. And then I go over to my grandsons, and their dog too comes over. I remember the first time he was here, I was at the sink and I couldn't figure out why I couldn't turn around. Well, I didn't realize he had laid across the back of my legs. And he didn't even know me, but he came and he just made friends with me right away.
Right away. Nice. That's very nice.
So it's beautiful what animals can give you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And
The third thing?
the third thing is learning how to go out in nature more. I always have the windows open. I have my desk now. I can have it in one of the bedrooms where I can look out on the roadway coming into my condo units, or I can be where I am right now. I look out and all I see is trees.
Yeah, it's beautiful where you are. I've been there, and you
Yeah.
have quite the place behind you. Even though the last time I went there, I went for her walk and got
Yeah.
lost, and poor Elizabeth had to come out and rescue me.
Well, she got lost around the
I'll
lake.
probably never live that one down ever.
Yeah. Oh no, I'll make sure of that. There's a lake beside us. There's the trees here. I see people walking their dogs and people pushing their kids and young people on bikes and all that, and just talking as they're going by here. And I see swans out back here. I see turkeys. I told Richie I was going to make him some turkey burgers, but first I had to kill one of them.
Yeah, and I like that, right? The cities are starting to realize how important nature is. Like back in the old days, you saw these big trees in these neighborhoods and stuff, and it's like now they're realizing, right? We need that nature.
Oh, they have to.
We need these ponds. We need these green spaces to connect with nature through the busyness in the cities, right? So I think it's great that they're starting to recognize that.
Yeah, and we're built around the lake here, so Mississauga, so it's really good.
Nice.
So we always have that. We can just go down to Lakeshore, and we've got the Port Credit where it's got a lighthouse there, an old lighthouse there, and it's right by the lake, and it's just really, I don't know, there's just so many different things that you can enjoy, and when it goes to your senses, that's when it works the most. When you can see things, when you can hear things, when you can feel the breeze, when you can feel your hair being ruffled, just because the breeze is going there. And, you can even taste, like what better things is to lemonade or anything with the taste of a fruit and all this kind of stuff. So there's always, something about nature that we can enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, where can people find you?
Well, they can find me in Mississauga. And, I've got my, are you going to be giving out my email address, or do you want me to say it here?
I will put, you can say it, but I will also put it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, I have a Yahoo address, and it's Elizabeth K. B as in Bob 2001 at yahoo.com. So that's, and right now, unfortunately, our website went down because of something, and we're going to have to rewrite it. But maybe by the time this show goes, I'll give you our new website, and then everybody can find the new name of our website. So
perfect.
Yeah.
And you have your own website as well, do you not?
That's one of the ones that went down because it was connected to our Mississauga Writers Group.
Oh, okay.
So that all went down. So it has to be rewritten.
Oh, okay.
But
You can share that with me and I'll throw those in the show notes as well when this does air, because we are pre-recording. And we really, really appreciate having you on and coming back.
Thank you.
Please come back anytime and share your knowledge with us and our listeners.
The one thing is the three of us agree with each other. You know what I mean?
We practice.
But it's not just that we feel the same way. You know, if I say something, you go, oh yeah, I feel that way too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, like I learned from you, you learned from me. You know, the funny part about it is we met in a class that somebody else was teaching.
Right.
Yeah. And you were pregnant with your son, with your younger son, right?
Yep.
So it's the funny thing is we met in a classroom and we've been going at it ever since.
Exactly. So
yeah.
Well, we appreciate it. And, you know, like I say, we'd love you to be back on. And then for everybody else, you can find us by searching under Daughters of the Moon podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And if you're interested in booking a reading or Reiki session, you can check out our website, daughtersmoonpodca.wixsite.com/my site, which will also be in the show notes. And we really appreciate you listening and would love if you like and subscribe to us and share us with your friends. And we hope you have a magical week.
You bet.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.